this is why you should watch Attack on Titan. As somebody that is a really big fan of the show, I am a huge defender that's probably one of the greatest shows ever made. Obviously, you have your titans of media like Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, the first four seasons of Game of Thrones. But this is the one TV series in which I feel like the animation is its asset. A lot of people might classify animated TV shows as being made for kids. This show is not made for kids. Let me put that out there. Also, mild spoiler warnings. I know this is kind of weird to preface if I'm trying to convince you to watch AOT that there will be spoilers, but I'll try not to go into anything really, really big. It's kind of hard to give my reasoning to watch a show that's this expensive without touching on a couple of key things that happen in it. So just putting that out there. Anyways, obviously, eye candy. AOT has such attractive characters. Now, this isn't the number one reason to watch it, but let me just say, boys, girls, we all like eye candy. And so do I. Even the men in this show had made me feel some kind of way. And I'm straight. And that's saying something. Irvin Smith, my dad. Levi Ackerman, my daddy. Aaron Yeager with that slick man bun with the tiny hairs in the front. Anyways, eye candy is definitely a big part of why you should watch the show. But seriously, here's my table of contents, my reasoning. First and foremost, we have free will versus determinism slash destiny. We also have the idea of prejudice with application to real world events slash atrocities. There's also a huge argument on what our greater purpose is, especially in the face of death. And then going on to some more subjective things, which I think are pretty objective once you watch the entire show. Cool music, cool visuals, cool fights, cool everything. It's definitely one of the best TV shows ever made. And all of these things just add to it exponentially. Now, the first thing I'm going to talk about, which is kind of a spoiler, but did Aaron Yeager have free will? Could he have stopped the atrocities he was going to commit? Now, I don't think he could have. There's definitely a huge chicken and egg argument, but this show kind of lets the user decide. They leave it kind of ambiguous for them to make the inference of whether or not he had free will, whether or not he had a predetermined future, and I know that conversation can be very philosophical, and if people enjoy getting into those kinds of topics, this show can definitely lend itself a real nice lens into both sides of the argument. This show doesn't really favor one philosophy or the other, but it can be a good battleground for that topic. Now, the second thing is prejudice, and when I first watched the show, I was like, are these concentration camps? Is this like supposed to be a flashback it's supposed to allude to like the Holocaust or to other ethnic cleansing scenarios? And the answer is yes. Like there are definitely key aspects of the show that draw from historical events such as the Holocaust, such as Jews being mistreated with the armbands and everything, all of those little prejudices. And it even goes into some modern conflict allusions as well. So this show does a really good job in terms of showing why Marlins could have felt the way they did, but also why they were categorically incorrect. It also goes into like the friendly fire situation with Eldians in terms of how the Marlin Eldians see the Eldians on Paradis Island much, much differently, and how their view of Paradis Eldians is reminiscent to how the Marlians see Eldians as a whole. And again, it's kind of unsettling when you first watch the first scenes that unfold, where you actually learn what's happening on the outside world. But this show, let me just say, what is your purpose? There's obviously a lot of fighting in this show. Attack on Titan kind of alludes to going to be a lot of attack with Titans, but there are a lot of casualties. And the thing the show does really well in the first episode, it gives you the overall theme, the overall tone, and the overall gore of the show, which I do appreciate. It'd be kind of unforgiving if a show were to make you believe that's child friendly and everything, and in the second episode or the second season, it hits you with all this gore, blood, action, all this death. But this show does this in the first episode, which I do really appreciate. But because of that, all these soldiers are basically, they know they're like, they signed their death contract. They know they have a death wish, and they know that the mission they're on is basically a suicide mission. So there's this really great scene in the show where the commander of the scout regiment basically has this really, really enticing speech to try to get his soldiers to corral around one another and to basically face death in the eyes. And it goes something like this: everything that you thought had meaning, every hope, dream, moment of happiness, none of it matters as you lie bleeding out on the battlefield. None of it changes what a speeding bullet does to a body. We all die. But does that mean our lives are meaningless? I do not. I am not giving this speech enough credit for just the way that I know everyone has felt watching this unfold. But the way he's able to get me, a viewer, to feel as if I would be willing to lay my life on the line against a hurling boulder to my face for a regiment that I just joined, it just speaks a testament to the writing, to the score, to the characters, to the plot, everything. And speaking of score, the music is unparalleled. Think about your favorite scenes from any movie, from any TV series. Now, what makes it your favorite scene? Is it the characters? Is it the plot? Is it the scene itself? Or do you think about the music? If you thought about the music, let me just say that every single memorable scene in Attack on Titan, the music is its backdrop. The music is what gives us that gravitas, gives it that presence and that energy. And that's something that not all great shows can really claim to. Think about Breaking Bad, right? Probably unequivocally the greatest show ever made. When you think of Breaking Bad, do you really think about the score, the music? No, you think about the characters, the scenes, the plots, what's happening. Now, I will give some credit to where credit's due. Crawling Spaces have a really good score that undermines its events, but nothing like Attack on Titan. Anything from the Marlian fight to My Soldier's Rage to the transformation of the Colossal and the Armored Titan. It's just all amazing. It's because the music sets this really, really nice environment for it to all come together. Now, the visuals on this show are peak, to say the least. Like, that's putting it gently. Like, look at these different scenes. I don't think any of this is spoiling really that much of what happens in the show, especially with no context at all. But the visuals are on a different level. This show was made over the course of 10 years, right? Season 1 came out in 2013, and Season 4 ended in 2023. That can just give you, just an amount of, the scale that the show was produced on. The amount of time that the animators spent on every scene, on every season. It's not something that every show can really, again, claim on to, because some shows are rushed. Game of Thrones. And then let's just talk about the fights. The fights in the show, again, it's gory, full of energy, full of presence from both opposing characters. The visuals, the music all comes together to make some of the best action scenes, in my opinion, ever put to screen. I don't really know what else to say about Attack on Titan that I just haven't really mentioned, but it's more than a show. Obviously, it's based on a manga. I have not read the manga. I've watched multiple summaries of the manga on YouTube, but I've never actually flipped through it. So it could be a completely different experience. It could be a much better experience than what the show was able to create for its audience. But my goodness, this show, the characters, the impact it has left not only on TV, but in media in general, the amount of memes that have come out of this, the amount of fan fiction, let me tell you guys, if there's one show that you have to watch and you really want to not only think philosophically, but also think about real world consequences within the show, think about how the show can apply to conflicts happening in the real world today, think about how these characters are basically opposites of one another. There's not one character type that is copy and pasted, or character archetype copy and paste from one person to the other. These characters evolve, they change. This show has it all. And maybe this might have convinced you just a little bit, but what can I say? That's my job done.